Okay, so in this video we're checking out the Mobula7 HD version. It's early February right now, and they actually sent this to me before Chinese New Year, so I believe this is still considered pre-production. There may still be some changes that might happen between now and the release date, which is at the end of February. So by the time this video is released, you may actually see some changes in other review units that were sent out. They're kind of making some iterative changes as time passes, but now they're on holidays, so we'll have to see if anything happens between now and the middle of February when they get back and the release date, which is at the end of February. So this is pretty close, I've been told, to the final version. There may be some tweaks in a few weeks, so keep that in mind. But yeah, I'll go ahead. I'll show you what they have on here and what's new and different about this one versus the original Mobula7 versus the HD version, and compare it to some other models out there. Say, for example, the Tiny Leader HD. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be comparing this to that model. But just taking a look at this, it does have newer parts. It's kind of everything's kind of updated, and it's the thing with these micros. The pace of progress is quite rapid, so you're getting a lot of changes very quickly and iterative changes from model to model. And what's interesting is I don't even have the Tiny Leader HD yet. I'm supposed to be getting one. I know that that's already been reviewed, but I mean, I know a lot of people that got the first batch had some issues, and so I'm supposed to be getting the second batch, but now this is already out. And on paper, I would have to say that this is probably better than that. Obviously, I will do a video later comparing this one to the Tiny Leader, just to be fair. But yeah, I don't even have that yet. And this one here, just based on what I'm looking at, does look better to me. So in any event, let's just go over all of the features. So the frame you see here is actually the Eachine trash can frame in this sort of transparent smoke color. And I think that Eachine and Happy Model are cooperating, I guess, and sharing some parts and stuff, because this is exactly the same frame as the trash can, as you can see here. The flight controller is an all-in-one flight controller. It's an F4 flight controller, and they're calling it you can see the Crazy Bee F4. This is the Free Sky version, and this is version 2.0, and I think this one on the Eachine trash can is the 1.0 version. So this one on the trash can can do 1.2S, whereas the one on the newer version here, the Mobula7 HD, I think does 1.3S. So this did come with a 3S battery, and I'll cover this here in a second. So yeah, F4 flight controller, all in one. Yeah, it does AKAK. It did come with a tune out of the box, and that's what I'll probably be using. Yeah, but you can see that they're using the same frame, kind of the same flight controller. I think like an updated version of the flight controller from the trash can. They're using the XT30 here instead of the two PH 2.0 connectors, so that's an update. And you can see here they're using these motors with the same 3-hole mount that the 0803 motors use on the trash can, but these motors are a little different. These are they're Happy Model branded 1102 10,000 kV. So bigger motors, obviously, because they're carrying more weight here with the Turtle V2 HD camera. And same props, I believe. Yeah, 4-bladed props there. So yeah, it's pretty much like a trash can with slightly upgraded motors, same props, same frame, same flight controller, but a 3S version of it. And it does come with the same video transmitter, which is the power switchable 25 and 200 milliwatt video transmitter. It's actually screwed into the canopy. So this canopy here is injected molded plastic, and that triangle shaped video transmitter there is actually screwed into the underside of the canopy, and it has the same micro FL connector for this little linear whip antenna there. Yes, you could possibly upgrade that to a circular polarized if you wanted to later. The turtle camera here, as you can see, so the camera's mounted in the canopy here, and then the camera, or the camera board, is mounted kind of on top of this little plastic piece here. It's kind of hard to see. So there's a small plastic piece right there that the canopy screws into on the side, and then the turtle board actually screws into that piece of plastic from the top that holds the board in place, and that kind of also holds the canopy down. So you have a screw here for the canopy, one over here, and then one in the front that's actually screwed into the frame. So we'll have to see how good the jello is or not. If the tune's good, it probably will be okay. I mean, there's obviously some flex here in the frame, so it should be able to take a good beating. But we'll have to see what the jello is like. Now, the turtle camera itself, you can see there's the slot there for the micro SD card. So it's pretty easily reachable. I can actually get my finger in there, so I should be able to pop that in and out. But there's no, obviously, the turtle doesn't have that little metal protection thing to hold the card in there, so it could get ejected in a crash. Now what you notice is that for this model, they've tried to eliminate weight, shave a gram here or there, wherever they could. So they actually removed the connector for the little plug that goes into the turtle camera board for the OSD joystick. And well, speaking of the joystick, they actually included in the box. I'll just quickly go over what's in the box. So you get the joystick board here, but there's actually no way to use it. And for whatever reason, they sent me 2 spare motors. Pretty sure that the production versions aren't going to come with spare motors. Let me just show you this really quick, what the motor looks like, because I'm sure some of you guys are going to wonder about that. Okay, so here's what the motor looks like. Pretty interesting. Comes with the standard M2 screw holes for if you want to use different props, and it's a open bottom design. 3-hole pattern there, like the 0803 or 0802 motors, and then obviously this comes with a plug, and yeah, it's a pretty small, tiny motor. And then the last thing you get here is a spare set of props, prop removal tools, some spare screws, and a screwdriver, and then this is the little cable for the joystick. So this is there's a little dongle that's supposed to go on the turtle board, so you can plug this in. And I'm told that this is actually going to get soldered on to where they remove the connector on the board. So in the production versions, you should be able to plug in the joystick to change your camera settings. I'm probably not going to do that for the initial videos, maybe later down the road. I was thinking maybe I'll make a video on how to do that, but I'm told that they're going to have that on there already, so making a how-to video is kind of pointless, because no one ought to be getting this version here without the little joystick controller dongle cable sticking out somewhere you can plug in the controller board. So I wouldn't worry about that. Just on this particular version, as I said, things are probably going to be changing as time goes on. Now, another place that they shave some weight is they remove there's a little like a PCB board that was on the back of these turtle cameras. They've actually removed that, so the electronic board that's in between there is actually exposed. So it's probably another savings of another gram and a half maybe by removing that. And then, of course, here this design, they have the adjustable camera angle here, so you could, raise it up a little bit more if you want to get more camera tilt, or you could bring it down if you want more flatter camera tilt for slower flying. And so yeah, so pretty nice. I like the design of the canopy and where the camera's placed, everything. So the duck should be out of the view of the HD video. We'll have to see when I actually go fly it. Now, speaking of the battery, so the battery that was included was this one here. It's a 300 milliamp hour 3S LiPo. You see 3 cells here. You can see it's like a pre-production sample. I believe the final versions are going to be made by G&B. I don't know anything about this battery or how good it is. We'll have to see if there's any voltage sag or what the internal resistance is like on this battery. But this looks like a standard, 300 milliamp hour stick battery. Just actually, soldered all together here with the balance lead and an XT30. So you have one 300 milliamp hour 3-cell battery instead of 3 1-cell batteries, and it just slides in underneath here like so. So that's what that looks like with the battery that's included. Now, I don't think that they're actually going to be including this battery. I'm not 100% sure. They may or may not be doing that. I haven't been told either way. This probably is going to be obviously sold separately as well, but I don't see a listing for this on Banggood yet. Now, as I said before, this does run on 2S as well, so if you have the G&B high volt 300 milliamp hour or 350 milliamp hour LiPo. It should also fit the same dimensions of this tray here, if you're wondering. I mean, I actually have the 300 milliamp hour, and I'll be using that as well to fly it under 2S conditions. Okay, so here's the weight of this without the battery, coming at 46 grams, pretty light. And then with the 3S battery, the 3S battery here is 24.75 grams. Yeah, so this weighs half as much as the drone, and altogether we're coming in at about 0.8 grams. So pretty light overall for this. I think definitely lighter than the Tiny Leader HD. I don't actually have the Tiny Leader HD yet, so I don't know what the exact weights of those are. I'll have a sort of a Mobula7 HD versus Tiny Leader HD video at some point down the road after I've reviewed the Tiny Leader HD. But you know, without knowing how this is going to fly exactly, you know, and also how the Tiny Leader will fly, I can't really say for sure which one is to get. So you'll have to wait for that video, and I'll obviously be doing that because I'm sure people will be curious. But I'm pretty sure this one is lighter by like a lot, because the Tiny Leader HD has multiple boards. So I think it has a separate ESC board and a flight controller board, versus this one is an all-in-one ESC board, flight controller board, so you do save weight there. This one has a injected molded plastic canopy versus the TPU printed canopy of the Tiny Leader, so that's actually heavier. The frame is going to be lighter because it's all plastic or polycarbonate, versus the carbon and polycarbonate frame of the Tiny Leader. So like I said, I don't have that yet, so I can't give you the weight measurement, but I know that this is definitely going to be lighter, so you're going to have some, probably better flight performance. You know, it is a smaller motor too, 1102 versus 1103. So there's, obviously a little differences there. But wait for that video. I'll have a full rundown between the two and that one. But yeah, right now it should be pretty easy to get this going. If you get the FreeSky version, there's also going to be a DSMX version. I'll have a built-in receiver. You can get there's also a version I think that won't have a receiver, so you can add your own, Futaba receiver or FlySky receiver or something else if you want to use something else, or maybe even Crossfire, for example, if you want to go long range. Not sure how far this will go, but yeah, those versions will be available to you at some point if you want to go for those versions. But yeah, that's enough of me rambling on about this. Let's go and see how this flies. So I did attempt to try and fly this indoors in my house, which is kind of small. This definitely on 3S requires a lot more space than this if you want to fly it comfortably. But yeah, maybe on 2S might be a little bit slower, but I don't think it's going to be that much slower. I've flown other stuff like this on 2S and still pretty fast. But yeah, you can do it if you want to, but this is not what I would prefer to do. This is mostly just to show that it is possible that you can fly in a smaller space like this. It's just that you're going to need to be very quick on the sticks. One thing that you should also be aware of here is that it is a low light condition, so when you see the next segment here, when we're flying outdoors, you'll notice a pretty significant difference in brighter conditions, and I'll explain that here in a second. Okay, so here I'm flying it outdoors, and there's a fair amount of wind right now, although it's not really, you can't really tell too much from the video. You can tell that it's coming in that direction. Well, actually, I'm going against the wind right now currently, and when I go the other direction, you'll see how much faster it is. When it's with the wind, it's a rocket ship, and when it's going into the wind, it's not so much fast. So Obviously the big difference here that you can see in bright conditions versus the low light conditions indoors is now we have a fair amount of jello in the HD video. And this is what I was kind of suspecting based on the design and the way that the canopy is screwed into the plastic pieces that are directly on the frame. There's no vibration dampening from the frame to the camera, and so in bright conditions you're going to see more jello like this. This is pretty typical when you don't have any sort of vibration isolation. I think that this is something that I'm going to recommend, that they change the design of the canopy where they can somehow isolate the vibrations in the canopy from the camera. That's the only thing I can think of that will prevent this. Now, it's possible that I may have some bad props that are unbalanced, and that could be causing a lot of the vibration that's getting through to the camera. You know, I may have just gotten unlucky and gotten some bad props, and that's totally possible. But then, you know, I did swap the props out here. You're actually seeing probably the 6th or 7th flight here after I noticed the video after the second flight, and I noticed the jello after the second flight, and look how fast it is going downwind. And I just start switching the props out. So I only had 8 props total, and I kind of like took them off, moved them front to back, and kind of mixed them around with some other the spares that I got, and none of the jello went away. So this is actually probably the best, most jello free that I've seen out of all the flights. This is why I'm showing you this flight. There's actually some flights where it's actually pretty bad. So I'm thinking I might have gotten a bad batch of props. I'm not 100% sure on that. If that's the only reason, I may try some gem fan props that may be better balanced in the future videos. So I'm also going to see if maybe they could send me another unit. Perhaps mine might be defective. I might have some bad motors. I don't know. But this is the jello that I'm seeing on this particular sample that I got.